Now, I asked people on social media what were things they wish they knew before moving to Japan, and obviously I got some interesting replies. So here are the 5 things that I wish I knew before I moved to Japan. So the first thing I wish I knew before moving to Japan is furusato noze, or literally meaning hometown tax. Now look, we all know that Japan is not really having the best time making babies right now. You'll pretty much hear about it all the time. And despite what the internet might have you believe, no, there is no such thing as a breeding visa. Although, I'm pretty sure most of Reddit really wishes there was. No, instead Japan has taken a rather unique approach to depopulation. You see, Tokyo, Osaka, and all the big major cities that we know about are actually growing in size. This means a lot less tax money going to the smaller towns suffering from the effects of depopulation. So the bigwigs in the Japanese government came up with a genius solution, and I have to admit, it's pretty damn good. They came up with furusato noze. It's a system that lets any tax-paying residents within Japan divert a portion of their income and resident taxes to local governments outside of where they actually live. And in return, you get free stuff. But how does it work? Well, first of all, you need to go to one of these websites, and right away I can see that I can buy a kilogram of fresh scallops from Hokkaido for 17,000 yen. Do you want some Wagyu beef from Kobe? Well, they got you. Do you want a brand new Sony TV? Well, you can do that too. On most of these websites, you can search by the product that you want or even the town that you want to support, as long as the item that you want is made here within Japan. And then you have to provide the listed donation amount. Technically, it's not a payment, but basically is. It's typically about 3 times the cost of the normal item, and you have to pay up front. Then you make sure you file it on your taxes, and you'll get that amount deducted from your overall tax bill. Basically, in a really long-winded way, making it free. Obviously, a system like this does have some downsides. You do need a lot more cash up front to buy the thing that you want, and you don't really get to decide when the product comes. So if you're buying fresh produce, for example, you kind of have to be ready to cook it and use it immediately when it shows up. But overall, it's a pretty amazing system that supports areas of Japan hurting with the effects of depopulation, and you get free stuff. This video is sponsored by Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. Girls Frontline 2 Exilium is a 3D strategy RPG sequel to Girls Frontline, available on mobile and PC, featuring a non-photorealistic rendering art style based on physically based rendering technology. Core gameplay is based on turn-based tactics and RPG elements. You take the role of the commander, leading tactical dolls through contaminated zones, battling enemies and overcoming obstacles during missions. But don't worry, there's also new content, because there'll be a brand new banner along with the new version, the Targeted Procurement banner, featuring increased drop rates for Springfield, Perry, and Mechty. But let's talk about Springfield. There's a new Springfield outfit available at a limited time discount where commanders can also interact and dance with Springfield by clicking. But let's not forget about Perry's elite weapon, Amanita, a high-performance SMG assigned to Perry, based on the MP5H1, but the standard procurement banner will be updated with a new elite doll, Faye, which you can get for free after completing in-game tasks during the limited time event. You can claim 30 targeted access permissions and 10 access permissions via sign-in events. And you can redeem all of these. But wait, there's more, because you can join the Zuchero Creative Hub now, where you can create your own avatar frame and other artworks for the chance to win 6,480 collapsed pieces and more exclusive rewards. So if you want to download Girls Frontline 2 Exilium today, smash that link in the description down below, or use the QR code on screen right now to start playing today. You're probably also wondering, what is it that I've bought on this system? And I am proud to tell you I have spent thousands of my tax dollars on Japanese wine, which makes for great gifts, a lot of beer, Wagyu beef, some towels, even the big-ass Sony TV in my living room. I think it's like a 55-inch OLED screen TV. It's ridiculous, and I can't believe there's a system where you can get this stuff. And since its start in 2008, donations amount have increased from $54 million in the first year to $6.5 million in 2023. So clearly, it's becoming way more popular in Japan, and it's something that I wish I knew when I moved to Japan, because I would have taken advantage of it. Sadly, I didn't start taking advantage of this system until last year. So don't be me. If you're paying taxes, get some free stuff while you're at it. And the overall amount you can spend on this scheme is dependent on how much money you pay in taxes every year. Now, I also asked people on social media what were things they wish they knew before moving to Japan, and obviously I got some interesting replies. You love the internet. One thing that my viewers wish they knew were the pains of having a middle name. Yes, I know, shockingly, if you're from a Western country, we do take it for granted that a lot of people have middle names. It's quite normal. But in Japan, they don't really do middle names. So your cute middle name, Timothy, might just end up breaking every single website and booking form ever. I do have a tip though if you have a middle name in Japan. Most of the time, just put your middle name in the first name box after your first name. Normally just solves all the problems. Best of luck. But the second thing that I wish I knew before moving to Japan. Now, I know this may sound stupid to you, but I wish I had learned some popular Japanese karaoke songs. I know this is so dumb. But in my experience as a foreigner, when I'm drinking out in Japan with my Japanese friends, nothing breaks the ice quicker than singing Japanese songs at karaoke. It is inevitable if you are drinking in Japan that you will end up at karaoke eventually. It is okay to not sing at karaoke, but if you want to really be involved in the vibe, you kind of have to join in. And embarrassing yourself is part of the fun. But I do remember a time where I was out with 5 Japanese friends, and it was my turn to pick a song, and I picked I'm Not Okay by My Chemical Romance. And they didn't know the song, so I just looked really weird while I'm screaming my heart out, crying, I'm not okay. And I should have just learned a bloody Doraemon song and made my life easier. Oftentimes, in making friends with new Japanese people, there's a bit of an icebreaker situation that we have to get over, and knowing a Japanese song off by heart that they'll all know often breaks that ice pretty quickly and gets the conversation flowing. I think weirdly it just helps show an understanding of Japanese pop culture, as there's no quicker way to become friends with someone than bonding over shared media. And to illustrate this point, I don't think there's any age group in Japan that doesn't know Cruel Angel Thesis from Evangelion. Every single person knows this song in Japan, and if you could sing it, I think it'll help make those awkward situations a little bit more fun. But enough about me, what are some amazing suggestions from our viewers? A couple of people pointed out about sayonara sales. For all the foreigners that want to come to Japan, there's also a bunch that want to leave, and they have a ton of furniture that they need to get rid of. And so that's where the wonderful sayonara sale comes in. Oftentimes on Craigslist, Reddit, or other websites, you can find entire apartments of furniture for dirt cheap. People just need to get rid of it because they're leaving soon. So if you're planning to move to Japan soon, make sure to look out for these sales online, and you might be able to get a couple of good deals. But make sure you don't get a fridge with cockroaches in it like I did. I paid $100 for a used fridge and it had cockroaches on it, and I'm still not over it. So don't do what I did. Please just look for the roaches. Moving on. And the third thing on my list of things that I wish I knew before I moved to Japan is reading the air, or in Japanese, kuki o yomu. Now, if you're into watching a lot of content about Japan, you've probably already heard this phrase before, and I had too, but I didn't really understand it until I got here. Kuki o yomu is a very Japanese cultural concept, and while it literally translates to reading the air, it actually is a bit deeper than that and has a lot more nuance. Sometimes people can also refer to it as taking the hint, but I feel like that's kind of not doing the phrase justice. Now, confrontation in Japan is not really the go-to way of solving problems. Often they prefer to do what we refer to as beating around the bush, and it can feel really frustrating to kind of learn this concept when you first move to Japan, but being able to read the air in Japan is absolutely key and fundamental to living in Japan and having a good time. There was a really good BBC article about this as well that I'll link down below, but it also references a tweet that went viral in Japan in 2019 that really helps explain this thought process. So the story goes that there was a businessman who met with a potential client in Kyoto, and this potential client that the businessman was meeting with complimented him on his watch. And at first the man thought, oh, he must want to know more about the watch, so he began to explain all the watch's features to this potential client, where really what the man wanted him to do was to look at his watch so he could see the time and wrap up the conversation. And to be honest, I would have a really hard time connecting those dots. I wouldn't think, oh Connor, that's a nice watch, please stop talking. Although now I'm sure there are people commenting that in the comments. Please don't comment that. Obviously in most Western countries, I would be like, oh, look at the time, hey, it's 12:30, I gotta bounce. And that wouldn't really be considered rude. But in Japan, this man's thought process is, hey, I'll offer this guy a compliment by saying, hey, your watch looks really nice, thus making the man look at the watch, be aware of the time that is passing and the amount of time that he is using up, hopefully then pressuring him into getting the hint and wrapping it up. Although even in this scenario, a lot of Japanese people were kind of confused by this. And honestly, at first it was a bit of a culture shock to get used to this. Although I do think that culture shock isn't the right word at times. I think maybe like the growing pains of expanding my worldview. Whenever I'm filming in Japan, for example, I always have to ask for permission. There is no kind of whoopsie situation. In Western countries, we often have this mentality of it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. And we generally have more room to mess up in Western culture. And look, I'm not saying either way is better than the other, but this non-confrontational approach works in Japan. There's also a fantastic video on this exact topic by Dogen, which I'll link down below. Highly recommend it, as his insight is so much better than mine on this topic and really helps explain this kind of cultural difference. And to steal from what Dogen says and kind of summarize a little bit, but please go watch the video, it's amazing. Throughout Japan's basically entire history, it has been faced with a potential world-ending disaster one after the other. And people need to stay calm and collected when facing this common aspect of Japanese life. And Japanese people have just developed a way to prioritize the group over the individual to get through these tragic events. And it's only really recently where I felt I've really truly begun to understand this. So when you find yourself in Japan next, hopefully you'll be a bit more conscious about reading the air. And before I tell you number 4, let's go back to the viewers to see what they also wish they knew. So here are some very fast tips. Get used to using the app Line. Everyone in Japan uses it to communicate, and no other apps are really popular, so download Line. Learn some little tidbits about different areas in Japan, because if you're in a conversation with someone, people are often very proud of where they're from in Japan, and if you know a little bit about where they're from, they're going to really appreciate it. And lastly, when you're booking a bullet train, some bullet train stations are not the main station in the city, and sometimes they're really far out. For example, if you're going on the bullet train from Tokyo all the way up north to Aomori or Hakodate, those bullet train stations, Shin Aomori and Shin Hakodate, are pretty far outside the town, so just make sure to keep that in mind. But next up, the 4th thing that I wish I knew before moving to Japan. Now I know you have all heard this complaint before, but it is a real one, and it is a truly terrifying aspect of Japanese culture that I wish I had prepared myself for more. It is the endless bureaucracy and forms. It never ends, okay? Anyone who has tried to open a bank in Japan will tell you that they have experienced true pain, okay? It's bad. It's really bad. But honestly, it could have been made a lot easier if I did just a little bit more research before I actually arrived in Japan. So if I'd prepared by knowing what forms and processes to do in the right order, it would have saved me a lot of time and headaches. For example, obviously I'm addicted to being on the internet. So the first thing I did when I moved to Japan was go to the internet company to get my internet installed in my brand new apartment. So as you can imagine, wide-eyed Connor signing my first contract in Japan, I need a hanko. I just wasted an hour of my time sitting here and I didn't know I needed a hanko to get this. Yes, some companies still require you to get a personalized hanko made when you sign contracts. So I had to go and get my stamp. And once I'd finally gotten my stamp, I went back to the internet company, wide-eyed once again, ready to sign this. What's this? I need a phone number. And you might be thinking, well, it's okay, I've got a foreign mobile number they can reach me. No. It can't be a foreign mobile number. It has to be a Japanese one. So I went to go and get my phone number. What? I need a bank? I thought my foreign bank would be fine, but okay, I'll go and open my Japanese bank account. What? I need a proof of employment? Okay, that's fine. I'll just go and get my proof of employment from my company. That will just take a couple of days to get. No big deal. I'll just wait around with no internet for now. So once I finally got it, I went back to the bank to get my account made. What? My hanko isn't the correct one? How? But once I finally get that proof of employment, I can go to the bank to get my account made. Why do I need another form? What is it this time? I just wanted internet. That's right. I just need to get my proof of residence from the city hall. It's so easy. And this cycle will continue for a very long time until you eventually, after months of living here, have finally got all of this stuff sorted. It takes a long time, and this is what most people's first few weeks in Japan look like. And I could have saved a lot of headaches had I known and researched a bit into what I could do beforehand in order to get all the forms in the right order and speed up this process. Also, just knowing the different types of visa, what you can do on all of them, is also really important, knowing who to talk to if stuff goes wrong. So remember, all those fetch quests that you do in those JRPGs are true and based off real life living in Japan. But enough about me. What do the viewers think are some things that you should know before moving to Japan? Some people mentioned that they wish they had gone to more cultural events. Oftentimes in Japan there are large cultural events and loads of festivals that are easy to miss. You can look online onto what's happening in your local area and make sure you go to them because they are really, really cool. Some viewers pointed out that transportation can add up pretty quick, and although transportation is very affordable and cheap in Japan generally, it still can add up pretty quick. If you get an e-bike or just a bike in general, you can often save a lot of money cycling around, and it's often quicker than some train routes, depending on how far you go. The Hito Bito, who I have no doubt you're all familiar with their TikTok, suggests learning a bit of local dialect, which I do agree with because I live in Tokyo, and whenever I go to Osaka, I am perpetually confused at what people are saying. I don't really understand much, and it would be so much easier if I knew a little bit of Kansai Ben, and it would just be a fun talking point. Obviously, another thing that you should know before moving to Japan is that working within Japanese companies can be pretty brutal, and it's not for the faint of heart. Work-life balance isn't really a thing in Japan, and just make sure if you're applying for a company, do your due diligence and make sure that you're not getting yourself into working 90 hours a week. That is obviously an exaggeration. And the final thing that a lot of viewers wish they knew before moving to Japan is that it is very lonely. It's really hard to make friends. But don't worry, just put yourself out there and you'll make a lot of friends, right? And the final thing that I wish I did before moving to Japan is, it's pretty obvious. I should have learned more Japanese. And one thing that shocked me when I was making this video was that so many of the responses to the question, what is one thing that you wish you did before moving to Japan, said improve their Japanese. People who knew nothing all the way up to people who were fluent in Japanese still wish they had learned more Japanese. Obviously, life circumstances are all very different and people all can't be N1 fluent before they move to Japan, although really wish I had been. But any amount that you can increase your Japanese proficiency by will just go a very long way. One of the main reasons why people end up feeling a bit more isolated in Japan than usual is because of the lack of ability to communicate. I didn't know I was moving to Japan until about 6 months before, and I had 6 months where I easily could have spent time learning Japanese, but for whatever reason, I didn't, and I wish I had done that. Instead, I spent the first few years in Japan going to bars and trying to talk as much as possible, which is a good way to learn, but I ended up picking some weird habits up whilst doing that, so wouldn't recommend it. So no matter how good you are at Japanese, make sure to learn as much as you possibly can before moving to Japan. It will make your life significantly easier. And even now that I've been here for nearly 6 years, I do often feel like, man, I wonder how many of those fun things that I did could have been enhanced more if I just knew a bit more of Japanese. Yes, I know the 5th point was rather underwhelming and you could have probably guessed that, but look, what do you want from me? So those are 5 things that I wish I had learned or knew before moving to Japan. Let me know down below if you live in Japan and if there were some things that you wish you had learned before moving here. And if you're planning to move to Japan in the future, I hope this video helps you on your journey. And obviously, consider subscribing and hitting that like button if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!